And we turn now to Republican consultant and CBS News contributor Frank Luntz, who is coming to us from Chicago this morning. Frank, I want to start on this question of voter fraud. Donald Trump has been talking about it. There was also a video released this week from Project Veritas that showed a Democratic strategist talking about busing people. Is that why, with that kind of video footage, is that why Republicans come out in such big numbers thinking the election is going to be stolen?
Republicans have felt this ever since Rudy Giuliani's campaign in 1989 and again in 1993. There's always been the concern that, particularly in urban America, people who shouldn't be voting are, or people are voting more than once. But the problem, John, is that it is a poison. It is toxic. And this feeling that the electoral system is rigged, the more that grows, the more impossible it will be after this election to govern. And I got to tell you, I've been studying this now for 25 years, and I've never seen a higher percentage of Americans who are prepared to completely toss out Washington, toss out Wall Street. They have no faith in the media, no faith in the institutions that run us. And then how do you bring people together to work together when all of these connections have been frayed?
Let me take the timeline back a little bit before we think about after the election. What about right now? You talk about this poison. When voters hear the election's going to be stolen, and then if Donald Trump loses, what's your sense, having spent so much time talking to voters, what's your sense of their reaction?
Well, I've been to 26 states now. I'll probably make it to 30 before the election's over. And it means that there is no coming together. And I think it's going to be very challenging for the GOP because you've got some Trump voters who are unwilling to vote for a Republican for Senate or Congress as a way to send a message to the establishment. And you've got some independents who want to vote Republican for the Senate and the House, but won't because they're too connected to Donald Trump. With only 17 days to go, I've not seen an election like this where there's so much inter-party battles going on at a time when the Republicans should be focused on the Democrats and prosecuting the case against their leadership.
Just 40 seconds before a break, and then we'll have you back. But do you think it's an attempt as a turnout mechanism to say the voting is rigged, it's being stolen from you, as a way to bring unity in a party that's having its own little internal bickering?
The way to bring unity is to talk about change in Washington, is to talk about the economy that isn't delivering for hardworking taxpayers, to talk about the fact that for 70% of Americans, they aren't better off, that 53% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to get by. That's more of a unifying message.
All right, we're going to get back and talk about that change message when we have you on the other side. So everybody stick with us, and we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Face the Nation. I'm John Dickerson. We continue with Republican strategist and CBS consultant Frank Luntz. Frank, you mentioned change, and that was the message that would bring Republicans together. Donald Trump has been talking about what he'll do in his first 100 days. He's been talking about draining the swamp in Washington. Is that what that's all about?
Well, it should have happened weeks or even months ago. I don't understand why he waited this long. And in fact, when you've got 70 million people watching the debates, that's when he should have released his plan for the first 100 days. What Republicans should look at, because there's going to be a lot of recrimination when this election is over, is that the focal point was not on those forgotten Americans that Donald Trump talked about a year ago as he began his candidacy. It's that it's all focused on him, his battles with the women, his battles with the media, his battles with just about everybody. If he had stayed the voice and the vision for those people who've been left behind, this race would be a lot different than it is right now.
You say recriminations. Do you think it's over? You think he's going to lose?
No, I don't think it's over, because if you look at the polling numbers across the country and in those key states, there are enough people that are still undecided. Hillary Clinton in almost every poll is below 50%. I don't think she's going to get a majority on Election Day, but it requires a level of discipline that the Trump campaign has not had. This is about the voice of the voters, not the voice of Donald Trump.
Is it the campaign or is it the candidate, you think, where the signal is getting lost?
I think it's both. And in the testing that we do, Donald Trump scores really well when he talks about changing the budget and holding people accountable. But he scores really badly when he starts attacking Hillary Clinton on personal terms, or even goes as far back as Bill Clinton. John, I have never seen a campaign that has less discipline, less focus, less of an effective vision at a time when more Americans are demanding a change in the way their government works. This should have been a slam dunk for the GOP.
All right, Frank Luntz, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.